Good evening, everyone. It is 6:32. We'll officially call this meeting to order. Although waiting, yes, streaming, very good. Thank you. So first matter of business, actually to approve the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Brian, thank you. A second? Second. Marty, second. Best time, you can amend the agenda at any time, but if you have any amendments you'd like to make to the agenda, now's perhaps the easiest time. Any? No? Seeing, hearing none? Ask for approval. All in favor? 6-0. Recognize, thinking of 6-0, the absence of our board president, Eric Bellis-Pacer, who is be watching streaming. She is out of town, and so as vice president has asked that I conduct the meeting here tonight. Our first matter of business on the agenda is the public comment section. We do have a full list tonight, or almost full. We did receive notice just about an hour before that one person is ill, and so we will move through. Being the list is full, we will keep time. We have allocated, as always per policy, 3 minutes per speaker. I will keep track of the time and give a 30-second warning. I'm not sure warning is the right word. I'll just give you advance notice at 30 seconds, whatever it might be. You'll probably hear the alarm. I'll try to shut off in time and call the next person to the podium. And I will be calling the names of those individuals. Comments are be directed at the board. This is a meeting in public, but it's not a meeting of the public, right? It is a board business meeting. So this is time for people to address the board. Ask that it be civil and respectful. As per our code of conduct and as examples for our students here in the schools as well. We do expect to hold members of the community to high expectations, so shouting outbursts and other things are inappropriate, but we are happy to listen and take notes. With that, we will get started. First on the list is Mr. Mike Neborowski at 7 Brimfield Circle. Please come to the podium. Okay, down 2 then. Next on the list is Miss Marilyn Keating, residing at 61 Colonial Circle.
Peter, if I may, Mrs. Keating, while you walk, because Erica would want us to the emergency exits. There are 2 back there and then 2 behind us. So
I think I repeated to myself 10 times, literally, before I hit the hammer, emergency exits, and I did not remember to do it, but thank you, Brian. It's a disease.
Push that, okay. Green is on, red is off. Nice haircut, Peter.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, school board members, and Superintendent Provenzano. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to publicly address all of you regarding my understanding and concerns for the work each of you do to help achieve the best education possible for our Fairport students. You, who are members of the school board, I applaud you for your unselfish service to this district, done at no recompense. The time that you spend studying various proposals, be they monetary, educational, structural, etc., for us is no small task. Thank you for your commitment. I believe that your and our efforts must be focused upon planting the seeds of having a good education as you lead our students in this K through 12 march and always work with them to achieve competency at their personal level. This, in most cases, will dictate their successes as they continue with their lives. Most of us have had a mentor or mentors encouraging our forward march. My paternal grandmother, who immigrated with her widowed mother and 5 siblings from Bucharest, Romania, spoke to me with that wisdom. She said, "Get your education before you marry. No one can take away your education. Please implant how the benefits of a good education leads to a successful life in our students." This small brown book that you see me carrying should be one of the guiding lights in a student's educational experience. It sets forth the founding principles of our nation and the guidelines that have been carefully and thoughtfully delineated by many who were wise, honest, and had this country's forward growth at heart. This book contains the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, all in one little brown book. The Declaration states that all men are created equal. Yes, that equality is not contingent upon the color of one's skin, the nature of their home, the circumstances of their birth, but upon their willingness to become the best version of themselves in a country allowing them freedom to do so. We all
30
have
seconds.
certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, rights which this country offers and for which governments are established by the people to secure. Please, as a guiding light for our Fairport schools, be certain that our students are being taught a good civics and history program in which they learn about both the good and the not so good historical happenings that have forged this country. Be consistently certain to reinforce the value of students achieving and being the best that they can be in school. Recognizing their learning and the performance at this level will dictate their fortunes
Thank
as
you,
they
Ms.
set
Stevens.
out
Your
in the
time is
world.
up.
School is their first job.
Move on. Thank you. To the next person. Miss Kelly Cutcho. Did I say that right? Sorry if I don't. Names are important. Who resides at 2 Bradford Hill Road.
Does it start now?
As soon as you start, I will hit the timer.
A theme at many of these school board meetings around the country seems to be the uncomfortableness and therefore the interruption of parents reading from these books. And that is my point. If it's considered lewd, pornographic, and uncomfortable to hear, that's because it is. And therefore, common sense would dictate that it's inappropriate for middle and high schoolers to be finding in the school library. We trusted you to teach and educate our children, to help mold them into productive and successful adults. Schools are learning institutions. Where is the educational value in books that read, lick it like a lolly and give your jaw a break? There's no value there. This isn't sexual education. What's in these books is nothing short of pleasure-based pornography. It is not bigoted to not want children exposed to sexual depictions. I find it creepy that our school board thinks that this is a good idea. The focus on this indoctrination is the reason that in the United States and the developed world, kids in the U.S. rank 27th in math and 18th in science, 13th in reading. The Challenge Committee used select reviews from Amazon in the report to me about Flamer, but didn't reference the age recommendation from the same source, 10th to 12th grade, although Fairport has it at JP, grades 6 to 8. I don't even have time to get into the challenges involved in making a challenge and then waiting close to 90 days to get that report, and why the confidentiality clause in the email and attachment containing the report. What don't you want the public to know? What are you hiding? Brett Provenzano made some memorable quotes to me in my meeting with him. I only have time to highlight a few. One, does my child have a phone? That is a distraction away from the point. If a student needs to search and find these types of books, yes, parents only have so many tools to help control the internet on phones. So tell me again how stocking these books in the library contributes to their education, a place where parents expect their kids to be safe by law from suggestive sexual acts and picture books of lewd acts and pornography. Number two, continue to be a great parent and arm my daughter with the resources and tools she needs to be happy, healthy, and productive. You can't control what's happening in the world around you. I submit to you, members of the board, you can control what's accessible and harmful to my child at school, that part of the world around us. Why should I have to have discussions with my child about dildos, sexual intercourse, oral and anal sex? I can't imagine having that conversation with my friends, much less my child, at any age. Mr. Provenzano handed me a handout from the American Library Association. That group guides school districts when approached with book challenges, including seeking support from ally groups in the community. It's not a coincidence that the same day myself and others signed up to speak or tried to sign up, an ally
30
group of the
seconds.
school had a post on social media calling on, quote, folks to sign up and speak at the March board meeting, citing that, quote, the Christian nationalist anti-LGBTQ will be showing up. And just like that, the 10 public comment slots were full. I encourage all parents in the district who disagree with this material in the libraries to challenge the material and take a stand. All of you in front of me should have criminal charges brought against you. This discussion has nothing to do with how people want to live their lives these days. This discussion is about getting these inappropriate books off your school shelves. This discussion is about school employees and officials being in denial about the pornographic and lewd content. That makes you all enablers, and that right there is criminal. And that
Thank you.
right
Your
there
time
is
is
not
up.
protecting our children.
Thank you. Next, we have Miss Nicole Thibault. Miss Nicole Thibault, residing at 76 Waterford Way.
When my oldest son was in 8th grade, he's age 13, he brought home a book for a report. He knew nothing about the contents, and neither did I. He chose it because of the picture on the cover, which had a porcupine on it. The book covered issues about male puberty. The main boy character had a crush on a girl who was a lesbian. And spoiler alert, the long-lost grandpa had a secret male lover who died of AIDS. At age 13, I don't think my son was fully understanding all of the content of the book, but we read it together, and it was a great springboard for some really very interesting conversations. It was a bonding experience that I fully enjoyed having with him. When my youngest son was in 6th grade, age 11, he went to the Martha Brown Library and asked for a Stephen King book. And he was told, well, that's a pretty adult book for a very young man. Well, the library didn't end up having the book anyways, but I did not appreciate the judgment, and I ordered him the book on Amazon, and he read it on his own. I read through all the Stephen King books when I was his age, and most of the books that are on the banned book list today. I've always had a love of reading. I was an English literature major in college, and amongst many occupations that I hold, I am a travel blogger and a writer today, and I credit my love of reading and writing at a young age for becoming a published author. But why would I ever censor my kid's curiosity and his reading habits? I could be stifling a future interest, their future passion, or a future career. I was going to get up here and read passages from some of my favorite banned books, like Their Eyes Were Watching God, The Color Purple, To Kill a Mockingbird, Harry Potter, and Where the Wild Things Are. But Jodi Picoult, a renowned author who recently had 22 of her book titles banned in the South, wrote a wonderful article, which I will share with some of you today. She writes, "The banned books on these lists are not salacious or revolutionary. What children are actually being exposed to are lives that are different from their own, and mindsets that are different from their own, which creates compassion and empathy. In other cases, children are being exposed to ideas and mindsets exactly like their own, which provide representation
30 seconds.
and validity and a sense of belonging. We know categorically that kids who feel marginalized and who read books with characters like themselves wind up feeling less marginalized, and kids who have never encountered something different from them get to do so in the safe space of a book. This leads to understanding. It helps people find common ground. Book bans spotlight the differences between us." Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Miss Tiffany Porter, residing at 30 Black Watch Trail.
Hey everyone. So here's an idea. If you do not want your children reading certain books, tell them not to. It shouldn't be inclusive from everybody else or excluded everybody else from reading certain books. I think it's a privilege of people in this room to be here talking about banning books. And in our group, we're doing things that we need community members in here in the board to help with. And that's fighting poverty within our community. People drive by places like the Pines of Parenton every day, and those students are coming to these schools with mice, mold infestation, and living in unstable housing in inhabitable conditions. We need folks' help in this room and on this board to fight that. We need folks to speak up on their behalf because nobody else is doing that. So I challenge everyone in this room, instead of coming here and talking about things that you're privileged to talk about, help your other community members in this area fight poverty, because that's what we're trying to do. If you want performance levels, if you want literacy to increase, those kids are at a disadvantage when they come to this school because they live in inhabitable conditions. And that's mostly what I wanted to say. You know, we need to come together as a community and try to find things to fight systemic issues. And poverty is one of those things that I feel like the suburbs try to hide. And I would like to have more people come to the table and do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Next, we have Heidi Waka, residing at 14 White Alder Circle. Yeah. Even the blind squirrel finds a nut. So I got lucky.
All right. Well, good evening, and thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. All three of my children attend schools in Fairport Central School District. And I want to thank the board, our teachers, and librarians for providing a wide range of reading materials to educate and represent our increasingly diverse community. Any funds spent representing the whole of our community is always money well spent. In an era of restricting ideas and a time when book bans continue to be on the rise from a small but vocal minority, I speak on the behalf of the First Amendment rights of students and community members to access the materials that they wish to access. We have competent and talented professionals that I am extremely grateful for in our community and in our schools. Parents do have the right to guide their children's reading, but parents should not be making decisions for other parents' children. More specifically, a small group of parents should not dictate what books other people's children are allowed to read. Books are tools for understanding complex issues. Limiting young people's access to books does not protect them from complex and challenging issues in life. Young people in our community deserve to see themselves, their friends, and their families reflected in library books and in the literature around them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Matthew Brown, residing at 46 Nelson Street. Dr. Brown, I'm sorry, thank you, I knew that.
Evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I actually want to talk to you about the dietary options in our schools, specifically about meat and dairy. So in my household, we practice veganism, a dietary philosophy that is strongly linked with several of the world's major religions. My children are not allowed to eat meat or dairy in our home, and nor do I want them eating it in school. I understand that our cafeterias regularly serve both meat and dairy, and I'm very concerned as a parent that if my children are exposed to meat and dairy, there will be dire consequences for them, physically, emotionally, and morally. I therefore humbly ask that all forms of meat and dairy be removed from our school cafeterias. I understand other families may feel differently, but I remind them that the eating of meat is morally repugnant to an ever-growing segment of our population. And I'm not asking that no one be ever allowed to ever eat meat. Their children are free to eat whatever they want outside of school grounds. I suppose I should say I'm not really here to talk about veganism. But I do want to point out that as parents, we all get to make decisions for our children, to model behavior and teach them the morals and philosophies that we believe. Part of that should be educating them about other people's beliefs and modeling respect for other people's and other parents' choices. There's a wide spectrum of maturity of children within schools, within grades, and even within classrooms. There are middle schoolers who can handle frank discussions about sex and violence, and there are high schoolers who can't. The person who knows best what a child can handle is, ideally, that child's parent, certainly not the parents of other children. I'm sure any one of us could go through the collection of any given library and find books that do not agree with the ideas that we want to teach our children. But removing the books does not remove the ideas. And especially today, our kids are just one internet search away from any idea. Instead of removing access, let's show our children that we trust not just them, but that we have faith in the strength of our relationship with them. So if they come across a confusing or unsettling idea, they know that we as their parents are who they should come to for explanation, for context, and for guidance. There should be no book that is stronger than your bond with your child. And if there is, then the book is not really the problem. The library isn't the problem, and the school isn't the problem. That's really all I have to say, but I do want to say, school board members, superintendent, I have your back. We have your back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. David Stites at 11 West Church Street.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here as an advocate, an ally, a student, and a role model, as is everyone in this room. More importantly, I'm the father of 4 Fairport students, and I'm a professor of psychology. I'm increasingly concerned with how we are choosing to act as role models, allies, students, and advocates for our children and our students. Let me explain. Psychologist Albert Bandura demonstrated how the actions of, for example, everyone in this room can and will influence the actions of the children around us. Famously known as the Bobo doll experiment, Bandura's social learning theory demonstrates the power of role modeling in shaping children's lives, in particular aggression, that one-sided self-protective impulse to control at any cost. As I organized my thoughts for tonight, I realized that we've become too comfortable with allowing aggression to permeate our discourse. How we enact our views and beliefs is crucial to the healthy social-emotional development of our children. As parents, teachers, board members, clergy, social media influencers, community members, we are responsible to our children. We answer to our children. As a father and a professor, I always emphasize that my views are one of many. I do not shout them nor write them with all caps. I intentionally model dialogue to ensure that my children and students have their own voice. This process and the way we model it, the democratic process, is diminished by aggression. Aggression and spectacle merely mask for a lack of strength, conviction, and merit. Maybe that is how some of you on the board feel. Maybe you quietly wish the parents of the students you represent would just understand, for example, that identities and growth are complex. It's messy. It's a process. Exposure and diversity allow for growth. Maybe you would like all of us to understand that you are operating in an environment that is also complex and messy and riddled with emotion. Just like the Bobo doll experiment, your actions are modeling a growth mindset, an openness that is maybe not all about agreement, but maybe about just understanding. The process gets derailed by aggression, intolerance, and spectacle. We can all feel confident to know that we can make space for others and that this is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. Confidence is often quiet. It makes room for others without erasing ourselves. It invites dialogue. It does not have to be in all caps. I am proud of the work of the Fairport School District. I want everyone in this room to know that what we are doing is having an impact. Students are fired up. As a parent, I'm excited that they are engaged. As a professor, I can assure you that these students are coming to college with skills to serve and shape their communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And final speaker tonight is Mr. David Levine, residing at 26 Vanderburg Drive.
Parents, grandparents, Fairport citizens, taxpayers. Our Board of Education and Superintendent are aware of the obscene and pornographic materials in our school district that children have access to. Tonight, we will illuminate this issue as it permeates our schools and subjects children to graphic materials in impressionable ages. Currently, the process to challenge a book can take up to 60 days as anonymous committees are formed and votes are taken on whether to remove or retain highly sexualized and obscene materials. While one book may be removed, multiples are retained and likely another's quietly added. Enough. The law is the law, and your barred policies do not supersede or usurp the law pertaining to children and obscenity. This is not sex education, but rather pleasure-based sexualization. Recently on a book challenge, Deputy Superintendent defended the book Trans Plus. This administrator is the superintendent's designee. She stated that the book stays on the shelf within the district, citing that it was relevant to students and that it is educational. This book contains QR codes that take children to obscene sites that contain additional hyperlinks. I personally signed the book out and tested a QR code, and the subsequent hyperlinks, this is what it provided me. 1, everything you need to know about first-time anal sex. 2, 17 next-level oral sex tips. 3, when giving head, use your tongue wisely. 4, 12 tips to help you master blowjobs. 5, 13 top-rated vibrators to hit your G-spot. Another book demonstrates how to utilize a sex app. Upload a pic of yourself. The app works out your location, tells you the nearest homosexual. You can then chat. Because you are near, you can meet up. This is not about book banning or censorship. It's about age appropriateness. Under the SCOTUS ruling of May 13th, 2002, this does not violate anyone's First Amendment rights. You, however, are in violation of multiple state penal codes and federal laws. I now present to you the evidence, and you are being served an intent to file notification against each one of you by multiple Fairport residents. You are endangering the moral and potential physical health of our Fairport youth. You have 5 business days to comply with 2 simple demands contained within.
30 seconds.
Failure to comply will result in a claim being filed against you. Furthermore, the signees will follow through in federal court under the color of law. A copy of this evidence will now be in display briefly in the hallway along with the laws being violated. Dennis, you want to help me serve them, please?
Thank you, David.
What's your district office?
Every one of you. Keep disseminating pornography. Keep doing it. This is dangerous to children.
Thank you.
These are also going to go to the Monroe County Sheriff and Fairport Police Department as well. All right. It's dissemination of child pornography. Violates multiple federal statutes and state statutes.
You want to do this to Erica? She's
Are you guys afraid of
Serving her, I think it's pretty official if you give it to her yourself, so you know.
yelling?
I think it's required.
No way.
Yes, if we can please contain the outburst. This is not an unusual thing for school boards to be sued. It happens all the time, actually. There's not been a single minute of my life on the school board where I have not been sued or the school board has not.
This
So-
is a bond action.
But we will move on with the agenda. We have our Dollars for Scholars presentation tonight. Do we know who's here to present that? If we could have our Dollars for Scholars come up. In some ways, I apologize for the juxtaposition next to that. It's yeah.
Well, it is an absolutely wonderful night for Dollars for Scholars tonight. So sorry to change the tone in the room. I don't mean to be insensitive to anyone or anyone's feelings in that capacity. But tonight we are here to celebrate something very special to us. And I want to thank the board. My name is Heather McCarthy. I'm the current president of Fairport Parrington Dollars for Scholars. And I have with me here Pat May as well, who will be helping me tonight. Thank you for your time on your schedule tonight, which I have come to realize is quite busy. So, Fairport Dollars for Scholars is an all-volunteer group of absolute superheroes. I just got the statistics at our last board meeting, and this year we will be administering over $73,000 in scholarships to over 70 college-bound Fairport seniors. So that's obviously totally awesome. Thank you. Thank you. This involves a tremendous amount of year-round effort from all of our board members, and I am very proud of our truly special team. So we are here tonight because once a year we give ourselves the opportunity to reflect and consider whether there is a person or organization that has made a significant contribution to our chapter and would therefore be deserving of our highest expression of gratitude. And that is the Donna Yeoman Honor Award. So this year there was someone just that special, and she is here tonight, and her name is Ann Dokas. And my friend and fellow board member, Pat May, will now present Ann with the 2023 Donna Yeoman Honor Award. Thank you, and congratulations, Ann.
Thanks, Heather. Having been a board member of Dollars for Scholars since 1990, I've sort of been around and seen a lot of people and was in your position at one point for 15 years. So God bless you all. Ann Dokas, our hero. You don't need to stand if you don't want to right now. Oh, thank you. Okay. Ann Dokas joined the board, the Fairport Parents and Dollars for Scholars Board in the 1990s. And she became interested in our work because she had established a scholarship through our chapter to honor her brother who had passed away, Michael Brees, who had been a Fairport High School athlete, basketball player. Once on the board, Anne served on the scholarship selection committee and participated in various chapter activities until her family moved from Fairport in 2003. When she and her family moved back home to Fairport a few years later, Anne enthusiastically accepted the invitation to rejoin the board and was subsequently elected as president for the next 2 years. Anne's professional background in IT came to be an absolute blessing for our chapter. Scholarship America, the national organization under which our chapter operates, was moving toward increased use of technology and required all its affiliates to do likewise. Anne was the one who interfaced with Scholarship America during this period, especially related to their new application and selection process requirements. No other board member at that time was at all comfortable with technology, and that is such a huge understatement. Anne was the only one on the board that had any knowledge of technology at all. So the blessing. The biggest hurdle for us was the transition associated with converting from the traditional paper version, paper-oriented scholarship application selection process that had been always managed by our own chapter, to the online version, which standardized the processes across all Scholarship America chapters. While continuing to be our contact with Scholarship America, Anne worked tirelessly to convince first the Scholarship Selection Committee and then the rest of us on the board that we could both understand and use the new process, which of course we've been using ever since. Thank you. During her last few years on the board, Anne's work schedule required that she travel a lot, and so she had to miss many monthly board meetings. However, she continued to be our contact with Scholarship America on technology issues while she trained others on the board to take on this role. She obviously continued to participate in other chapter activities as she was able with her travel schedule. Most importantly, however, at this time, Anne took the lead on both reviewing and updating the chapter bylaws, as well as developing new and revising established chapter policies, making certain that all documents were legally correct and up to date and so on. A Herculean task, if ever there was. And anyone who's ever worked on bylaws and policies, boring, but legally so necessary. I'm sorry, good. Thankfully, Anne feels that way, or felt that way too. When Anne retired from the board at the end of the 2018-2019 year, the Fairport Barrington chapter of DFS was a far different organization than when she joined up in the 90s, in large part due to her efforts and her knowledge. Many past and current DFS board members have worked very hard to bring our chapter the successes it currently enjoys. However, having lived through all the years of challenges and lived through the years and changes, especially relating to technology, some of us know that this chapter would not be where it is today without Anne's leadership and significant contributions. We are therefore so thrilled to be able to present the 2022-23 Donna Yeoman Honor Award to Ann Dokas. And just before presentation, Donna Yeoman, longtime board member on Dollars for Scholars who passed away, and after whom we chose to name the honor award, would be so pleased to see Anne receive this award for so many reasons, most of which Donna, for many, many years, well, she served as president, but many, many years she was the scholarship chairman who was not comfortable transferring to technology. And so Anne, was her fairy godmother at the time. And so I know Donna's smiling big time. So Anne, congratulations. Thank you for all your efforts. And we will present this award to you for your personal use. And also, this plaque with Ann's name will be displayed at the high school.
Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you. I would actually like to thank all of you for your ongoing support of Dollars for Scholars. It's such an important piece of this community. Donnie Alman was a force of nature, and it's humbling to receive this award, but especially with both Phil and Phil here. So thank you, and thank you for all that you continue to do for Dollars for Scholars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dollars for Scholars, and I don't think, I'm always so impressed. Probably about $75,000 to $80,000 a year you award to our students, and that goes to a good cause. It speaks to your caring heart and great commitment, so thank you all. Thank you, Heather, and good luck in your new role.
Thank you. Move on to the communications section of the report. We have with us our wonderful student advisor, and ask Sarah to come up to the podium and give us an update.
My audience is disappearing. Should I start? I'll wait a little bit. Thank you. Oh yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So, good evening, Board of Education and all remaining guests. Thank you all, like always, for having me at this evening's meeting. It's beautiful outside, and I'm so happy to be here. Fairport has had one of the most memorable weeks we've seen in the past 3 years, and I want to personally thank the board and our community for making my senior year Brotherhood Sisterhood Week and this past month overall such a pleasure to experience. To backtrack a little, I want to highlight Fairport High School's 2-week-long trip to Ireland during February break. While I was not involved in this, I know that the 20 exchange students that went had the time of their lives exploring the beautiful nuances of Irish culture, nature, education, and food. And I was told that they had meat and potatoes and tea for every meal. Next week, we welcome the Irish exchange students with open arms to our community and our school. And the week after that, a group of 37 senior Spanish students, along with 4 chaperones, will be packing their bags and traveling to Spain for spring break. I will be going on this trip, and I don't think I've ever been more excited for anything in my entire life. We will be traveling to 4 different cities over the course of our 9-day trip, and I'm sure it will be interesting, but I'm so glad we have the opportunity to experience a trip in a Spanish-speaking country to enhance our skills within the language and familiarize ourselves with a new culture. Thank you to all who allowed this to happen. As many of you know, I'm sure, Fairport High School's Drama Club presented their record-breakingly popular musical rendition of Disney's The Little Mermaid. I don't know if you guys were able to make it to one of their 4 shows a couple weekends ago, but I can vouch for everyone else that it was one of the best high school productions this community has ever seen. The shows were completely sold out each night for the first time ever, which was necessary for how much effort, love, and money went into its preparation. The talent of the cast and crew, along with the musical ensemble, was impressive in capturing the magical traits that Ariel's story has to offer. Fairport High School's photography students have been featured at the Image City Photography Gallery in their exhibit called Through the Student Lens. Maya Allen, Riley Bodell, Maribel Cardona, Maggie Gigi, Tyler Hancock, Maggie O'Brien, Mary-Kate Rudnicki, Annabelle Rullo, and Delaney Baker are all of the featured artists whose work can be found at the exhibit for the next 3 weeks. Currently, the Black Student Union is on a trip to Washington, D.C. visiting HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges or universities. This is an amazing opportunity for the members of our Black Student Union, as well as those members whose 8th grade DC trip was canceled due to COVID. It's good time for them to go. And the trip seems like a ton of fun. Friday, March 10th marked a very important day in our senior year, 100 days until graduation. We were up bright and early, 5:50 a.m. to be exact, and shared a morning of Clausen's breakfast pizza, powdered donuts, an assortment of fruits, and the grand news of our staff graduation speaker. Congratulations to our Assistant Principal of Special Programs, Mrs. Kyle, on this honor. We know she's the best fit for our class and cannot wait to hear what she has to say. And finally, a recap of last week has been the news you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. Brotherhood Sisterhood Week 2023. Monday morning, we had our kickoff assembly for our family talk, where teacher speaker Julie Marshall and student speaker Greg Pepin shared their stories about their Fairport experience and the importance of fostering connections within our community. On Thursday, we had another altered schedule to accommodate for the afternoon showing of Unplugged, an absolute fan favorite talent show-like event presented in the auditorium. We had 11 performances. Many students demonstrated their talents through playing instruments and singing. It took a lot of guts for these people to get up and showcase their passions to the entire school, so each performer was very respected. We absolutely loved getting to see all the wonderful ways people express themselves and are proud of them in their moments of character development. And finally, Friday, the day we have all been anticipating most. Not only was it St. Patrick's Day, it was our elementary student outreach day. We shared some amazing moments with the younger members of the school district. Every second period class at FHS was assigned a class at either Dudley, Northside, or JA to interact with the little kids, while the Minerva DeLand kids visited Brooks Hill. Our main activity, along with enjoying the holistic experience, was supposed to be coding. However, many pairs strayed away from their Chromebooks and took part in meaningful conversations and activities with their buddies. We all spent about an hour at the elementary schools talking, giggling, coloring, and playing more Heads Up 7-Up than one could imagine. And I can say that it was some of the most fun we've had throughout our unique high school experience so far. The past few years have inevitably altered this week for us, and we are so glad it's finally back to normal. I do know, however, that many of the elementary school teachers were thrown a curveball during such an exciting day for the kids, I'm sure. And I apologize personally on behalf of the high school for how much patience that probably took after we left. But yeah, overall, I hold nothing but joy as a student attending Fairport these days, and it could just be the fact that it's the second semester of my senior year and everything's seeming a little bit brighter and less stressful than in previous times. But I do truly think that our school community becomes more and more cohesive throughout every day and every event. I thank you all for sharing your time with me, and I hope everyone is in high spirits for the rest of the school year. Please have a great evening and happy spring.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
All the best on the Spain trip. That's very exciting. Yes, and buen viaje, indeed. But, are you by chance participating in the Seal of Biliteracy? I am. So that you already had it? Okay, so more of them are this Saturday, I understand, right? So I hope that went well for you. Well, congratulations. Thank you for being here tonight and giving us that update. Wonderful report. For the president's report, we have two parts. Our board president who's absent did do a recording, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to show that. I do apologize for technical difficulties. This is the challenge of the day and age which we live. When it happens, I feel and I'm grateful for IT staff who are working now, doing everything they can do to bring it back up. If audio's streaming still, is that okay? So I will start off with what I was going to share, I suppose, and having listened to Erica's video presentation, I'll try not to duplicate, but I have often thought, I don't know how you all feel as those with parents or have been, the third quarter seems to be one of the most busiest quarters, is that the right word, of our school year, right? You have the ending of the winter sports, the starting of the fall, all happening within the third quarter. Not to mention then the drama, which if you ever participated, you know how many long hours, incredible, that children, no wonder they are sleep deprived if they participate in drama. The Seal of Biliteracy, which was mentioned, I didn't realize it was going on. I know it's a Saturday for some. It's the first year we participated in. There's just so many different things going on in our school. Sorry, excuse me for a moment. I had brought a lamp in. a copy of the November Lampion because it's been on my mind about some of what is going on with our students. And our students will communicate that to us in different ways. And one of the ways is through the Lampion, right? Back in November, they had the up close article on page 9, mental health needs to be priority, FHS poll shows. And the number of variables that impact a student's education, a successful student in education, only seems to be growing. Technology, one of them, right? Perhaps making the successful operation of technology, but not just that. No, it's not your fault. I just know it happens. But successful of all the different ways, right? That they have so much in the palm of their hand, literally, to be able to do that. And that's mentioned in this article. But I was trying to think, what are the top 5, 10 issues that impact our students? From the Lampion, we have mental health. And that may be perhaps an overall umbrella of some of these other things, although I've listed them off differently. But I wanted to read just 2 paragraphs from that if I could, or 1 paragraph. In a recent poll taken by 116 FHS students, 77.6% of students agreed or strongly agreed that school stresses them out to the point where they are overwhelmed. 78.5% of students agreed or strongly agreed that their mental health is worse during the school year. Like, ouch. And it goes on. It's very long, takes up full page, right, about different things, and they've interviewed teachers and different strategies for tackling it. But I thought, okay, here's students talking to us about one of the challenges that presents to them in being successful in their education. Other ones, I perused all the e-clips. We get daily clips of newspaper articles from around the state and the country. What were some of the headlines? There's other sources as well. And so I just thought I'd go through all those over the last several weeks, and I just made notes. Drugs, alcohol, vaping. Right, big issues facing our children. That's always been an issue, though, hasn't it? For decades. And it just changes, vaping being a new part of it, I suppose. Social emotional, right? The stress of especially teenage years of friends and belonging and those circles. What a challenge that is for them. Social media, high volume of use. And I know there's plenty of studies going on right now about following the impact on the developing brains of youth, how it indeed has changed brain structures and gray matter and other things. And I better stop talking because I'll show my ignorance, really. But it's amazing the studies going on to show that impact. That's impacting our youth today. Physical safety, unfortunately, both in the schools and of the schools, right? Are we able to protect our students with the number of incidents that are happening, and more we hear in the media? They have exposure to it. They know. Do they feel safe when they come to us here in Fairport? Tutoring needs, that's increased quite a bit thanks to COVID. One that was surprised us was, are we in our second year, early this year? I can't remember, early this year or late last year, adults not taking seriously enough the issue of climate change, right? Students came to us, communicated that at a board workshop. It influences the world that they're going to inherit, and they wanted us to know we should be taking it seriously. And again, much of this is summarized under the umbrella. I bring this up, and over the last couple of weeks, yes, had a sense of our public comments period tonight for both sides of the issue. Appreciate what was said. I know there's passion around it. But books did not hit that list. The books that were discussed did not hit that list of what's impacting our students. They are optional. They are for them to check out. I encourage us as a board to stay focused on these issues that are impacting students, that try their success, that challenge their success of being educated, and that we continue to do everything we can to ameliorate these issues and get thick into thick things, the serious issues that are impacting our children. I say we stay focused on that. We have a process for everything else. I understand no process is perfect, and there are processes within processes, I suppose, appeals or other things. I think they're playing out well. I've seen the reports. I know that they are doing everything they're supposed to do, and look forward to allowing that to take place while we as a board stay focused, hyper-focused, I think, on the issues that are impacting our youth every single day. With that, if we're ready, then we will, in reverse order, it's supposed to be first, we will have our video presentation from our president, and thank her for thinking ahead of time. I admit I wouldn't have done that, and glad we have a better president, but she thought of it, and here's her report.
And thank you to Luke. Appreciate
Yes,
that.
thank you.
Well, hello. This is Erica Bellis-Pacer, the board president in Fairport. Unfortunately, I will be out of town for the meeting tonight, so I thought I would do a few updates via recording so that I could share what we've been up to over the past few months. So just as a reminder, I know we talked about the Monroe County School Board Association going to Albany a few weeks ago. I was able to participate in the trip, as you can see with the pictures. We did meet with a number of senators, assembly members, and even some of Governor Hochul's education team. It was a great opportunity to share advocacy and just talk about what is happening within the schools and why we need funding for different things and just get clarification. So there were some updates last week after we had been there with what the budget will look like coming forward. I know that hopefully there will be a decision on April 1st, but we will see. Additionally, just wanted to talk about some of the topics that we discussed there. We did talk about the need for increased funding for mental health services for students K through 12. We did thank the Assembly people and the senators and the legislators for having the full foundation aid this year. This is something that hasn't happened in a number of years, I believe around 17. But just looking to the future and making sure that we'll still receive the full amount is definitely needed. There's also some different formulas that need to be looked at. In some cases, smaller schools may not have received as much as larger schools like Fairport. So just, identifying what might need to change and making sure that we do receive what we need. We also talked a lot about UPK funding for both school-based programs and community-based programs. Both would fall under the school district that they're associated with, but there is across the state a need to either change up buildings that exist and make them suitable for UPK classrooms similar to in Fairport. But additionally, there are issues with community-based UPK programs where they're not receiving enough funding to make it worth having the program at their location. So just a number of things that need to be looked at. Additionally, Governor Hochul did announce that there would be a certain amount of money set aside in this budget to provide tutoring for students to kind of fill in some of the gaps due to COVID. We did talk about the need for guidelines in terms of how that will be used, and also just making sure that there is guidelines in terms of how the school uses it. So ideally, it would be up to each individual district on how they use it, but we'll have to see what they come back with. Also, just wanted to highlight, and I'm sure, if you know me, you probably saw me out and about last week. It was Brotherhood Sisterhood Week. I'm sure Brett and the rest of the board will talk about that as well. But it was a great opportunity to see different family talks, different events, and of course, the Buddy Day was great on Friday. We had our school visit at Jefferson Ave, and we were able to see juniors and seniors partnering up with their buddies that day in the morning, and they actually were doing a lot of exciting things related to our Spark Labs. They were using blocks to build different things and problem solve. They were also doing some coding, turtle art on the computers, which was wonderful. We got to see the elementary students actually teach the high schoolers how to do a variety of coding programs. So the joy and just excitement last week across the district was outstanding. Also, in the past month, Odyssey of the Mind had their regional competition. It was in HFL. And here are just a few pictures of some of the teams that went. We had students in grades K actually through 11th that attended and participated. And we actually have 4 teams that will be continuing on to states on April 15th. So stay tuned, and just proud of our students for those accomplishments. Also, just wanted to highlight, we've had quite a few musicals in the past month. The Little Mermaid was at the high school, and I know my children just were amazed by it. They loved it. We hadn't really been back to musicals in quite some time since COVID, so I think just the experience was wonderful. And last weekend, there was Oliver at Martha Brown. So I know this coming week we have a play at Minerva DeLand, and I know that JP is working on a play as well, so more to come. I usually talk a lot about sports. Wanted to focus on some other things this month, but I did want to say that most of our winter sports are coming to an end or have ended. We did have a lot of teams participate in sectionals, and some went further. I know that we had some amazing athletes on the indoor track team that broke different school records across the board. And we're getting started and kicking off our spring sport season. I know baseball tryouts were last week, and track tryouts for JV and varsity are this week. So excited for all those opportunities. And I know that the board members that are at the meeting tonight will share information on the trip to Albany, touch on it a little more, and just other exciting things that have been taking place across.
Oh, I listened to it. That's what happens. I think it's
Across where?
right. So with that, well, we'll move into just other board updates and comments. And so you have that intro in terms of the trip for those who participated. I know there's been other committees, Monroe County School Board committee meetings as well. So if I'll open that up for you all to share thoughts, but.
Sure, I will start. Yes, I had the wonderful honor and pleasure of attending Albany last week, a week and a half ago, with Joyce and Erica, my first trip to Albany. And it was really an honor to be just among so many people working towards the same goals. It's easy to sometimes feel like you're in your own district, but, you know, we all went to Albany with, you know, very similar visions of increasing our attention to mental health services for our students. You know, looking at foundation aid, UPK was, you know, a very huge topic, something that I think Fairport we're really excited about what it's going to look like in the fall. And as Erica mentioned, thinking about, you know, how do we use our tutoring funds to best support our students. But just a really great day, great energy to be with everybody else. You learn as much from your fellow board members as you do from your legislators. We have such incredible advocates on our board, and just some great conversations, not only in the halls of the Capitol, but in the bus coming back home. So thank you to you two for just the great company. Some great work was done. So do you want to say anything else about Albany?
Yeah, I have some notes on the different. I met with Senator Brooke. Just a few of us were able to get into her office. We didn't think she would be there, but she was, so that was great. The main thing everybody talked about was foundation aid and the need for a new formula. No surprise there. But Senator Brooke said that strongly feels the formula needs updating. She is in favor of meals for all, going back to that. So she's wants to work towards that. Mental health, of course, is her big thing. She chairs that committee. And she had some ideas of, since there's such a shortage of people to administer the mental health, we might be able to use telehealth in the schools if that would serve more kids. And she's interested in changing legislation so that it would allow for school psychologists to work with kids in school and then also the same students out of school, which is they're not allowed to do legally at this point. And she would like to see that happen so that the kids can have some continuity in their, you know, working with someone. She is concerned about charter schools and their lack of accountability and transparency. And she understands that UPK needs more money per pupil. We stress that a lot with everyone we spoke with. Also met with Shelley Mayer, who is the head of the Senate Committee on Education, and she is extraordinary. I don't think I've ever sat with a legislator who was so well informed, on top of everything, and straightforward with us. When someone brought up, when we talked about UPK, she said, yep, we need more money. I know that. We're working on it. Someone brought up, well, we also need transportation. She said, nope, not going to happen. She says, yeah, I know you need it. It'll come eventually. We can't do it now. It's not going to happen. Let's not waste time on things that we can't do right now. Let's move on to something we can get done. I really appreciated honesty
Wow.
in a
Yeah, that's great.
legislative office. So she is very opposed to lifting the cap on charters for the same reason, lack of accountability. She wants more flexibility in the money that schools get for mental health. It shouldn't just be for high needs kids, that everyone needs some help in that area. And she does not like the set asides for tutoring. She really likes flexibility in the money that we get. So that was all good information, but she was extraordinary to sit down with. I also went to state ed. We only had one meeting with state ed, but it was very informative. We met with Christina Coughlin. Some of you who've been before might remember her. I've met with her so many times I've lost count. But she is now the CFO at state ed. And so we asked if there were any wants for SED, took the reverse there, because we said, is there anything you want us to advocate for SED? And she said, yes, they need an upgrade in IT. We all know everything that gets to SED takes forever to be returned. And part of it is they don't have enough people, and their computer system and all of that is, their data systems are old and slow. And she said, we really need more money, so perhaps we need, as Monroe County School Board members, we need to advocate for that for SED. But as for what we want from them, she said that she wants to get money for a study on the electric buses and the feasibility of actually having that happen. She wants flexibility for civil service, both in SED and in districts, because that can, as we know, cause some difficulties in hiring. And she definitely wants to change the rates for UPK, knowing that we don't get enough per pupil. Then we also spoke with the director of early learning about interstate reciprocity for teachers, and he said that they are working on that and that they are coming up with something new and different and changing language from equivalent certificates to comparable certificates, which will give more leeway. And that if someone from another state is fully certified and has 3 years experience, that they should be able to get a New York certificate. So we'll see if that really happens. And I think that probably covers pretty much what I had. If I have any more things, I can pass them on to you at another point, but it was mostly foundation aid, UPK. Erica and I were in an elevator with someone, and we talked to him, and he found out he was an assembly member. And
Captured
we talked
audience.
to him. I gave him my literal elevator speech, and quickly said that we needed more money, and it was really urgent and important to get UPK, and the children need it. And he said, I have young kids, I'm with you. So we advocated every time we had a chance.
That's a full day.
It was a very full day, very early.
You left what time in the morning
We left at 6
and got back at?
and then got back by, 5:30 or something.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
very busy, but very informative. And I think these advocate trips make a difference. I really do.
You've been doing it many years. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have to echo that. Thank you to you both and to Erica. That is a long day, unpaid, away from your families, away from your jobs, that you're giving to our community to serve and advocate for us, and just very appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Brian?
Yeah, so two quick things. One, quick update on the Sustainability Committee. We had a meeting just before this meeting, actually, so some things that committee's got going on. We are scheduling, thanks to our awesome Aaron Smith, we are scheduling waste audits at all 4 of our elementary schools, building off of the one that we did last year. And Impact Earth is helping us coordinate those efforts, so that's very exciting to see. We have the exciting return of the invasive species poll. That's going to be, there you go. It's going to be May 18th. So that is a Thursday. It's the Thursday after the school board vote. It's going to be in the afternoon. Same place it was last year, back behind JP. I don't know what the weed is. Amber Brown left, so she can't tell me what we're going to be pulling, but it will be there. I think it's is it the same one? Okay. And also the school supply drive that we sponsored last summer is going to be returning to the library. Right now, I think I have these dates right. It's July 31st to August 2nd. And then collections will start toward the end of the school year as students start cleaning out their lockers and stuff like that. So there'll be more information on that. And Erica kind of stole my thunder. I guess I have to talk about sports since she talked a little bit about the theater programs and the musicals, but I do have to give a shout out to our theater programs and to all of the teachers and students who work there. I'm going to single out Kim Fabrici and her team at Martha Brown as a stand-in for all of the incredible work that our teachers have done. So Little Mermaid 2 weeks ago at the high school. I missed it. I was somewhere else. But rave reviews. I've heard from board members that was fantastic. Martha Brown doing Oliver Jr. this past weekend. I got to give a shout out to the Artful Dodger. She was the best part of the show. I'm probably biased, but they were all great. This coming weekend, there are 2 shows going on. JP is doing The Oxymorons. That is Friday and Saturday night. Tickets are $7. Minerva DeLand is doing Into the Woods Junior, Sondheim's Best. Joyce, don't fight me. Friday, and then 2 shows on Saturday. Tickets are $6 in advance, $8 at the door. There's a story on our website that has the links that you can get tickets in advance if you want. And more to the point, along with just listing this off. And Brett, thank you for getting me this information. This is about 280 students who took part in these musicals and these productions across the 4 schools. And that's cast, that's crew, that's creative, that's orchestra at the high school. It's 280 students. That's 2/3 of an entire graduating class taking part in these. And, you know, I know we as a board, we talk about how much we value theater and we value the arts and we value music, and we do. And it's just a reminder that as we enter into budget season, as we start talking about capital campaigns and capital projects in the future, that we keep this in mind, that we keep those kids in mind, that we continue to, as we tell our story, as Brett so fondly says on our budget, that story includes what these students and the teachers need.
What impacts students? Yeah, great. Marty? Don't want to leave you out.
I'll just add on to that student engagement part. Last month at Information Exchange, we had a presentation from the East Irondequoit schools about esports that was just so fascinating to me. They have established those teams. I think they're in their 2nd year now of those. The superintendent agreed that when she first heard about them, she was a little bit skeptical because these are teams of students participating in electronic games. So many of the popular games that you hear the kids talk about at home, she learned that she could monitor and modify what games they played so that there weren't any that were inappropriate, and then felt comfortable to move ahead with that. It has been such a success for them because it engaged, they studied it and found that they engaged 80 students who had never, grades 6 through 12, who had never participated in any kind of club or school activity before. They were most likely going home and playing these games on their own, but now they were monitored by a paid advisor, as in any club or sports team. Theirs is actually under the supervision of the director of athletics, and they actually get team shirts and that sort of thing. They do compete with other schools. There are other schools in our region as well as across the country, and this goes on into the college years. So very impressive presentation. I know I mentioned it, I think, at a workshop earlier, and Brett said you were on to all this. I would love to see that in Fairport. So hopefully we'll pursue that.
I'd love to see a class.
Yes. I should add that in their 2nd year, they actually developed classes in the high school, and know that they have students who look forward to going to college to study electronic gaming and all the science and mathematics behind that.
Thank you. Mary Caitlin.
I would love to see that. That sounds awesome. Just a couple of quick things. We're still hard at work on policy review. You'll see a bunch more on here. We've gotten into a nice cycle going. I was just blown away last week at Brotherhood Sisterhood Week. Not just all the celebrations and stuff, but just the role models we have here in the high school that came down and were just, they loved the little kids. They just were so wonderful and patient and kind and really embodied that sparking your care and that brotherhood, sisterhood. And it just makes you so proud when you get to see it and go out and say, you know, those are our high schoolers. They're pretty amazing. But just a wonderful celebration, and thank you to everybody here at the district. I can only begin to imagine how many hours it takes to plan all of that and the logistics of all of that, and just what a wonderful experience it is for our students.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for all the, I don't want to say tireless because it's tiring work, but thank you for all that work. And
Oh, Peter, can I add just two more
Sure.
quick things? So, piggybacking on Marty's comments about the information exchange. So sometimes we go to information exchange and we get great information from other districts, what's happening in other districts. Last week, we got to, as a district, Brett and Tom and Lindsay got to share with other districts about Parent Square. And a lot of, you know, I think a lot of schools are trying to figure out what's the best kind of technology, what's the best way we can reach to parents. And, you know, despite a lot of notifications, I can never say I don't know what's happening, going on in this district. And it's just a great measure. It allows, you know, I think so many parents who aren't able to be involved and in the classrooms every day to get snippets and to get pictures and to get messages. So Brett and Tom and Lindsay, thank you for such a great presentation. I think it was really well received. And then I just want to do a quick shout out to our Safety and Security Committee. I'm also on that, and just the work that they do behind the scenes to keep our schools safe, our kids safe, our teachers safe. It's very obvious that that work is incredibly important. So Sam, Deb, Miles, and everyone else on there, I know I'm leaving many out, but I just wanted to say thank you to them for the great work they do.
great acknowledgement. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move us on to our superintendent's report. I apologize. I think you wanted to show the brother and sister.
Yeah, we were having technical difficulties, but I'm online again. But
Here we go.
I'm pretty overwhelmed right now with so much pride, and you know, this board knows what's going on, and this board they're fierce advocates, and this board has a couple of responsibilities. One of them is policy. They're passionate about making sure that our policy is up to standards, that it reflects our values, and it is aligned to best practices and the law. The board sat here in public comments and heard a number of people speak, and they take those comments seriously, and they give me the honor of taking those comments seriously. And there is a policy and there's a process that we follow, and it's vetted, and I would argue that it's best practice. So I just want to emphasize that the board takes people's thoughts and opinions to heart, and the board has high expectations for how we implement that. And we do it with pride, and we serve our families and, most importantly, our students to make sure that their voices are heard too. So with that, I want to continue to speak about what another priority of the board, and it's 27 years old. It's not something that just happened. It's something that's naturally in its DNA. This idea of brotherhood, sisterhood, this idea of making sure that we're compassionate. I mean, there was a speaker, I think it was our second speaker, who spoke to making sure that our students are ready for the world around us. Making sure that they're prepared for the next. Do we want compassionate people? Do we want people that are aware of their surroundings? Do we want to make sure that we're respecting each other, respecting individual differences, and we embrace differences? The very reason why I probably moved my family over here after living in a neighboring district for the past for the first 45 years of my life. It's a compelling message, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. I'm so proud to represent it. And you know what? A lot of what I was going to say, the board already said it. Sarah already said it. And so I won't speak to that. But you know what was really cool last week? And you didn't mention it. It was the STEAM fair at Brooks Hill. It was yeah, I was like one of 3 people who made it in the catapult, right? So I was kind of pumped up. You know, but it symbolized more than like a deep interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That was there, and it was alive and well, and kids were saying things I didn't understand, right? Powerful. Families were involved. The gym was packed, right? And that is powerful. And then you go into The Little Mermaid a couple weeks back, 4 shows sold out. It's overwhelming. It's a joy to see it happen in our schools.
And just to mention with The Little Mermaid, all of our second graders were afforded the opportunity. So if a family or, life comes up over the weekends, everybody has birthday parties. All of our second graders were bussed over and the high schoolers put on the show for them. So I heard about that and I was just so excited.
And we have students in Unplugged cheering for each other, taking risks. Not always, it's not always the most talented, right? It's, the person who wants to go out there and perform in front of their classmates. The board enables all this and allows that to happen and says, yeah, we want that to happen. On top of all the serious academic pieces, all the great accomplishments that we'll be hearing about as we move through and we talk about in our instructional budget. Those pieces are important, but I have to share this brotherhood, sisterhood. This is what brotherhood, sisterhood is. Lindsay Redmond.
I recall as a kid growing up in Ohio, of all places, I remember being told that to always treat others the way you want to be treated. I would hear, Gregory, you wouldn't like it if someone did that to you, so please don't do that to them, okay? Admittedly, that's great advice in the context of a playground, but as older students, it's a different story. You see, if you treat me the way you want to be treated, there's a good chance you'll irk me in some way. Not at first, perhaps, but definitely over time. But why? Because I'm not you. I don't necessarily think like you, and how I communicate is likely to be different. Treating me the way you want to be treated assumes we're the same, and we're not. We're all very different, and that's okay. That's important. We are who we are today because of so many variables: the role of family, the impact of our teachers, the influence of our friends, our experiences, and what we made them mean. Our unique qualities make us, us. My Bolivian roots make me, me. And yet what binds us together is family. This Fairport family. The family that embraces every one of our differences. The family that empowers us to blossom through education. Fairport's community is one of awareness and acceptance. I relish the sense of respect for our individuality as I pass by Classroom A. Even when it's hard to see the light at the end of the hallway, there's always someone there who sees you, recognizes you, and values your bright spirit. Indeed, each one of us is a light, each of us powerful and influential. All it takes is a spark of empathy for the vital fires of change to ignite, to illuminate. All it takes is a smile, a fist bump, or a bro-sis hug. So, if you want to spark your care, treat others the way they want to be treated.
Did you know there's a student-run care club at FHS? I didn't know until February when students delivered kind notes and heart-shaped cookies to science teachers. Turns out there's a group of students who do something nice for different teachers each month. What? Now that's a spark. In the fall, administrators made popcorn for staff, and the PTSA created a trail mix bar in the main office for teachers. Last month, Mrs. Buffum randomly delivered a chai latte to me at the start of my 7th period class. Mrs. Angus has brought in yummy homemade caramels for the science department. Little things make a difference. Even a small spark can start a fire. A lot of us are sparks for our family and friends, which is great. Keep it up. But it's harder and sometimes awkward to be the spark for someone you aren't close with. It can take courage to be a spark to a stranger, or someone who's in a different friend group, has different interests, is a different race or gender identity. We all need to find the courage, rise above the hesitation, take the time to be kind to someone who isn't a close friend. I urge all of us to be the spark for care. Invite someone to a lacrosse game this spring. Have them join our passionate Red Zone. We can never have too many Raiders who are pumped up and showing pride. This week at lunch, if you see someone sitting by themselves, ask them to join your table. Be the spark for someone who needs it. On the new softball or baseball turf fields, show sportsmanship to an opponent when you tag them out. Have a civil conversation with someone who has different views than you. Help a peer struggling with their math homework. Not let them copy your homework. Help them understand your homework. Say hello or smile at someone you don't know in the hall. Tell someone their outfit slays. On days when I'm stressed out, Mrs. Kress and Mrs. Donahue are so perceptive and make a point to ask me if I'm okay or if there's any way they can help. Be the spark to someone you don't know well, someone who's having a bad day, or someone who maybe doesn't get a lot of sparks. Find your way to be the spark, small or large.
I want to thank Mrs. Marshall for taking on that challenge. I couldn't think of a better representation of care, living that every day, and I appreciate all the people that are here to support her. As she was talking about families not being perfect, caring is a conscious choice we make. Being a part of the Fairport family is a conscious choice that we make. So I'm going to invite a few of our friends to talk about the Joey Fund and the theme of our giving back this week and the t-shirts that were for sale. We still have a bunch in the office. And so I'm going to ask Mrs. Trudeau and the members of our Joey Fund committee to come up, just give us a little bit about what the Joey Fund is and how we help people in our own community.
Hi, my name is Alex and I'm the treasurer for the Joy Fund Committee. For over decades as a team we have been helping families in emergency situations. For example, house fires, accidents, health emergencies. The money from the fund comes from the generous donations in our Fairport community, and we're grateful to be chosen to support this brother and sister.
Thank you so much.
Again, thank you, Lindsay Reddick, for all the time and editing and putting together that clip. Just a powerful representation of what we believe here in our Fairport schools. And like I said, I'm really proud to be a part of it. Thank you for all the work behind that. Trying to get this thing that seems to be, try that again. I'm not having luck with technology today, guys. Start from, but I won't show the video. Moving along, again, I appreciate the great representation and all the information shared. I will not be going through those pieces again. Fairport for the Future, Phase 1, 2020-23 referendum and timeline. The board has spent much time in workshops speaking about this very topic, and here is a timeline and sort of an essence of what we're trying to accomplish. You'll see in the blue, these are interactions with staff and interaction with the community. We're going to be having on April 28th, that's a conference day, a town hall with teacher leaders and union leaders speaking about the merger, and that's going to be our secondary representatives. We will be having facility planning meetings after May 17th with our K-8 teams doing the same thing, but talking about facilities, like what are the things that they need in their environment to be successful and to promote optimal learning experiences. We're going to be working with our union leaders, seeking their feedback and continuing to develop our future planning when it comes to facilities. There'll be user group meetings, and those are going to be happening. They're going to be underway very soon. And the user group meetings are going to be occurring with those who will be impacted with facilities that are going to be changing. For example, the tech areas, the administrative offices, the library, the health curriculum, or the health classrooms in the back where the athletic rooms are now. There's going to be some renovated areas there. We're going to be working with those who are impacted directly. And here's a timeline in April and May, because by May 31st, we have to confirm the scope. And again, this is not new information. I'm just reiterating it. There's been some slight changes as we've been moving along. But along the way, we're going to be getting parent and community engagement, particularly at our elementary levels. The fifth graders today will be the first ones at Fairport High School. And we will be asking families to come to FHS so they could see what we're talking about. Why do we need renovated spaces? Why do we need comfortable and engaging in spaces that were created in 1970? And it's really important that we get community members out to let them see and ask questions and understand what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm looking forward to doing that work. And we'll be doing that in April and May and early August, September, and in the beginning of October as well, as much as we need to, just so we can continue to spread our message. And again, there'll be opportunities for public comment. In August, there'll be a special board meeting with important resolutions in August as well. There'll be public information meetings, again, sharing the information, trying to get it out as much as possible. And the public vote on the referendum will be on October 12th. Much more to do in between there, lots of communication to occur, but we're looking forward to engaging with the community and going forward with Fairport for the future. And I'm sure there'll be many conversations right here at our business meetings and workshops. And I'm going to end it here because I have some redundancies, but other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you. With all the great things we've heard about going on, obviously it requires financing, so we will give time to Mr. Stevens, Matt Stevens, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, to give us a treasurer and investment update, which can be seen in the consent calendar section for those who may follow along under the treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Tonight we have the treasury and investment update for the month of January 2023. We had a beginning cash balance in the general fund of 95 million, receipts for the month of 8.7 million, disbursements of 10.7 million for an ending cash balance of 93.1 million. Of the 93.1, around 92.8 invested in a mix of the money market CDs, insured cash sweeps, CDRs, and treasury bills. Overall trending similar to prior year. Revenues recognized through January of 103 million. Expenses of 64 million, very similar trending. Most of our revenue related to state aid and property tax. To take a look in the receipts, you'll notice in the month of January we did recognize some maturity of some treasury bills. So you see a large interest recognition in the month of January, as well as our STAR reimbursement that we get back from the state for the state aid. That is a summary for the month of January.
I think you hide how exciting I think that is, right? 483,000 worth of interest, that's a lot of funding, right, to help out in an inflationary time period. So thank you for being on top of that. We move on to the consent calendar. All items in the consent calendar are just a single motion, not open for discussion under Robert's Rules of Order. So if there's something you want to discuss, now's the time to ask for an amendment of the agenda and have it removed. Otherwise, I'll seek a motion to approve the consent calendar. Marty, Mary Caitlin, this side. All in favor? 6-0. Thank you. It puts us now into the real business, I suppose, of personnel actions and other things we have still to follow. Instructional items. A motion to approve the instructional staff actions is outlined in the agenda. Brian, thank you. A second? Second. Marty, second. Questions, comments? Any of these? Or anything? Just make sure we never. Second was Marty. Mhm. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? None? 6-0. Moving on to the non-instructional civil service, ask for a motion to approve those as outlined in the agenda. Joyce, thank you. Brian is second. Questions, comments here? No, all in favor? 6-0, no opposed. 5A, athletics, motion to approve the athletic staff actions as outlined. All right, Caitlin, thank you. Second, Joyce. No questions, comments here. All in favor? 6-0. 5D, benefits contract, a motion to approve the contract as outlined in the administrative content at this time. Marty, thank you. Brian, can I hear the second? Questions about this contract at all? No? All in favor? 6-0. Memorandum of agreement with our Fairport Educators Association. Need a motion to approve. There's 3 of them there listed, by the way, in the administrative content, but motion to approve all 3. Marty, thank you. Second, Mary Caitlin. Questions, comments here? Appreciate the overage being willing to be done by these individuals, these teachers. All in favor? 6-0, thank you. And then non-collective wage adjustments, a motion to approve these adjustments as outlined again in the administrative content. Brian, second. Jan?
I'll second.
All in favor? 6-0, none opposed. And 5G, it doesn't say a motion, but it should, right? So I do need a motion to approve the extension of the Fairport Transportation Association contract. Motion, Marty, second. Joyce, second. Thank you. No questions, comments here. All in favor? 6-0. Get a sense that we feel like this meeting's already gone on for a while.
Our team just has it so nicely organized for us.
Yes, they do, and always provide us some material in advance. We do appreciate that, so we can read it over the weekend. 6A, presentations of 2019 Capital Improvement Project.
Thank you, Kevin Arletta from Campus, Campus Construction is coming up to talk and give a update on where we are with the 2019 Capital Improvement
I'm
Project.
gonna shift this just over to the side.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's my monthly workout right here. So here is our update for the month of February for the 2019 Capital Improvement Project. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was up there. Is it up there? No.
Hiding behind.
Alrighty, so here's just an overall look at our different pieces that make up the referendum for this capital project. We won't go through each one, but these are the different prime contracts, state contracts, incidental budget, and contingency. So a closer look at the financials based on contractor pay applications. We're just shy of 80% complete with both 1A and 1B. The district has approved just over 2.4 million in change orders, leaving us 972,000, and we currently have just over 187,000 left in allowances. So looking through the major scopes of work in 1A, the science classrooms, we are on our final set up there, looking to wrap those up towards the end of April. Awesome. And then our next big piece for this project will be the gymnasium, which we'll be tackling this summer, refinishing that floor, new athletic lines, acoustical panels for the ceiling, and a whole new paint job through the place. Sticking at the high school, we have our finishes project. Our contractor's been continuing working through the corridors with wall tile, and again, the major piece is going to be in the summertime when we get through there to do all the terrazzo flooring. And then over to 1B, contractors have been focusing work over at Minerva DeLand, Dudley, and Northside. Over at Minerva, we've been continuing with window replacements. Got a nice chunk lined up for spring break. Then we'll be wrapping those up over the summertime. And then over at Dudley and Northside, both of those buildings, we're currently working on the nurse's office renovations. And then for our Smart Schools project, our controls contractor has made his way through phase 1 buildings there, and we're currently preparing to start phase 2. You can see the buildings listed there, and we're just waiting excuse me, on a holding pattern as far as state reimbursement for that. So looking around the buildings on what's going on, starting over here at the high school, continuing the corridor wall tile installations, and this past Saturday we did install the new ceiling in the nurse's office, and then up on the second floor we are again working up on the last set of science classrooms there, working in the MEP rough-ins for the walls, and then framing and drywall. On high school finishes project, again continuing through with that corridor wall tile, and then moving over to 1B, Northside and Dudley, both working in those nurses' office renovations, and then Minerva DeLand continuing the window installs. So here's just a look at some of the classrooms we just turned over up on the second floor science classrooms. These were 2 sets of biology classrooms and 2 science prep rooms. And then down in this space, we completed replacement of this ceiling, installation of new light fixtures. Then hopping over to the 1B schools at Northside, you can see the renovations going on in the nurse office. And then over at Dudley, we're beginning the below slab piping work. We did start the Northside nurse's office a little bit beforehand, so they'll be moving along there as well. And then over at Minerva DeLand, you can see some of the new windows going in.
So real quick before Kevin jumps to this video, Kevin did a nice job at putting together kind of a start to finish conceptual design through construction completion of the multi-purpose field for the multi-purpose turf field. So we figured we'd add this as we approach the spring season. Kind of had some nice overview pictures before and after of dugouts and kind of the different pieces. So just wanted to, I know we've seen a lot of time lapses over time. We figured we haven't seen it in a couple of meetings, so maybe we should add one back in.
Yeah.
You just have to click that link.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Just a couple clicks away. think that was your last slide.
Yeah, that was the final slide there. But are there any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, instructional budget and total budget draft. Here, we are coming up quickly where we'll need to adopt next month. But seeing these in several workshops, different pieces, presenting to the community, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you to you and your team. Includes Monica, Shannon, Chris Eckert, building administrators, district administrators, community members, staff here. I'm really proud of the fact of the engagement. So we put together a budget that tries to address all the needs of our Fairport community. The budget does tell a story. The budget speaks to our priorities. All the great things that you heard about tonight happens because of what we do here. It happens because the board listens intently to make sure that we're doing our job of reaching into the community, understanding our priorities and their expectations for our students. This presentation is going to speak to an overview of the budget, specifically presenting the instructional budget. Again, the many pieces that you saw here tonight and that were celebrated by board members, by our student ambassador, Sarah Grover. We'll be talking about what it takes to develop that. Total budget, we'll be sharing our first draft of that. Mr. Stevens will be talking about some projections and some long-range planning expectations that the board has when it comes to fiscal sustainability and responsibility. We start this budget process early. It is not an event, it's a process. It happens throughout the year. The board is talking about the budget in August, and they confirm the budget goals based upon information and sessions during budget workshops. In the summer, throughout the year, they're working on these ideas in helping us get to a place in October. We do it early, and we speak to our goals, which are highlighted and have been spoken about for the past several meetings. If you take a look at what's been happening in our Fairport schools, there's been about a 1% to almost 2% a year, but we're pretty flattened out by now of a declining enrollment. You know, you used to see class sizes of 700, 600, high 500s. When I was a principal at JP, there were over 550, 60, 70 students graduating. But you'll see declining enrollment has impacted Fairport, just like it has impacted other Monroe County school districts. There's been declining enrollment. But what happens over time, we do pick up these numbers, and these numbers increase. And you'll see again in this slide that, you know, we're going to be having over the next several years graduating classes between 430 and 450. All right, and that's consistent with our projections that we've measured multiple times. We've got outside consultants, statistical forecasting. We've done our own internal forecasts, and they continually align and hold true. This impacts per pupil allocation. This impacts our total budget, and it's reflected here in our work. You'll see that the board has expectations of class sizes, particularly at the K5, K6 area. These are up to numbers, and in some cases, in many cases, these numbers are lower. But in K, you'll see up to 17, first grade up to 19, second grade up to 22, third grade up to 22 as well, and so on, 24, 24, and 25 in respective grades. Bless you. But again, these are maximum class sizes. When you're creating master schedules and working with all the different variables, this is what we try to commit to, and we're proud of these numbers, and it's a hallmark trait of what we do here in our Fairport schools. You'll see because of that declining enrollment and how we're trying to manage our class sizes and that class size expectation, you're seeing that there are some decreases in sections as you look at Brooks Hill, there's no change, but Dudley, there's a decrease in one section. Northside, there's a decrease in one section. In JP, there's a decrease in one section. And again, that's all contributing to declining enrollment. Secondary sectioning holds consistently throughout time. We're not changing this. We haven't changed this. We try to schedule on the lower side of this between the 23 and 26 in grades 7 and 8 and 9, 12, 24 to 27. Again, when you work with a master schedule, there's always anomalies. Sometimes you'll have class sizes that are a little higher, but that will be offset by class sizes that are really low in some other sections. But these are the averages that we go to. But there's also, anomalies that warrant lower class sizes due to special classes like art and technology. They require class sizes because of the special programming considerations, safety, space, limitations. Sometimes there's capstone projects that students need to complete, which requires a lower threshold with class size. And that flexibility is great because it helps us continue to give our students the very best. Part of the budget process, and this is important, is that we reach out to many different people. And we reach out to community members, we reach out to staff, and we are constantly analyzing our positions. And the major themes that came out this year were the social emotional support at each of our buildings. Again, this is what our community and our staff told us. We have asked, or community members have asked us to coordinate at the building level and with the district level with programming that is aligned academic support, social emotional support, and community-based resources. All of the groups who've advocated said that we need to be committed to aligning academic, social emotional, behavioral, and community resources. Special education is always an interest in our community, and making sure that we're supporting our restorative mindset, supporting kids at the high school, particularly as we continue to transition out through the pandemic. And you'll see some key staffing changes on this slide. I'd have it up here, but it addresses the 4 threads that I was just speaking to. We're going to start out by saying that we're through attrition, the retirements, we will not be hiring back 4 individuals. We will be looking to add a 2.0 FTE, that's a full-time equivalent, that's 1 staff member, for school counselors, so 2 school counselors. And those school counselors will be right at the elementary level. So now each elementary school will have a school counselor. We haven't had a full-time elementary school counselor. This completes that cycle. And those counselors will be incredibly important to support grade level transitions, to support classroom teachers, to support PBIS initiatives that occur, to help with all the different nuances from counseling to family intervention and resources. Also, we are looking to increase school psychologists to 2.2 full-time equivalents. Those psychologists you'll see in the K-8 area, and a district-wide psychologist to support with all the outside placement tests that we have, and also to support as needed within the buildings, because there are overflow. And our current psychologists, their caseload is pretty overwhelming because of the increased responsibilities that have occurred in the realm of mental health. Behaviors, yes?
The 2.0 proposed school counselors at the elementary, what will that do? Will that give us 1 at each elementary?
Yeah, like I said, yep, I'm happy to repeat that. 1 at each elementary, so there'll be 4 school counselors at the elementary. And again, that's so critical when you're talking about transitions, future planning, future ready raters, right? PBIS, that's how we create happy and positive and supportive learning environments. That needs to be taught. There's counseling services, there's family and community engagement. And again, this was a community ask. Behavior specialists will be the same thing. We'll be adding behavior specialists at each elementary school. We have seen, more than ever, an uptick in dysregulated children. And we're happy and proud to serve and work with all of our students and our families, but our staff needs help and they need support. A point of advocacy was to put the experts in each building. Right now, they're being shared. So, you know, if a child has an episode on a Tuesday at one of our elementary schools, the person who's assigned there could be at their sister school that they're sharing time with at Minerva DeLand, and like we need them on site. So we are needing behavior specialists to support and to model and to work inside the classroom, working side by side with the teachers to teach, to build capacity, to support the learning environment. And we're looking forward to seeing this come to fruition at the elementary level. There will be behavior specialists now assigned between the middle schools. They'll be sharing, and there'll be behavior specialists assigned between Minerva DeLand and Fairport High School. Again, this was a community expectation and priority. We learned about it from our staff, from our families, in our surveys, and through our community exchanges that we've had. And we are looking to add 2.0 special education, hoping to take back a class from BOCES, bringing our students to Johanna Perrin Middle School. That's great when we could do that. And we're looking to add a teacher on special assignment, again, to help with the range of special ed needs in the K-5 area where teachers need support. They need extra hands. They need someone to support IEP development, and making sure that we're imparting high quality programming. We talk about support from an administrative standpoint. We're looking to add one full-time MTSS administrator, multi-tier systems of support. That's a fancy way to say this. Given the size of our organization and the number of buildings that we have, there's 8 buildings. There needs to be lots of coordination. We need someone to oversee and align the resources that we provide our students. Those resources are academic, social emotional, behavior, and our community resources. And there needs to be a systematic, consistent way that this is applied in all of our buildings. And again, this was a priority and an expectation that was shared in all of our building visits, all of our community interactions of having a coherent programming. And this MTSS administrator will give us the oversight. And you'll be hearing me talk about multi-tier systems of support over the next several weeks. And I'm sure we'll continue to define it. And again, it's a way for us to align and coordinate all of the district resources aligned relative to academic, social, emotional, and community resources. And a senior teacher aide who will be stationed here at the high school to support students who are in alternative programming, who need extra time or support in their school day to get work done as a result of our work with them. What is the instructional budget? That's always the main question. And we know we're video happy, and I'm going to share with you a video that speaks to all the great things that we do, from the elementary master schedule to elementary class sizes, performing arts, and so on. Peter, can you? The instructional budget. Instructional budget. It's not loud. Shouldn't have great there. It was a great one. Yeah, shouldn't have great there.
There, click on it now.
Lindsay's like, you better get that work
I think the biggest thing is consistency. You can still have your own uniqueness in the classroom. You can adapt lessons to your personality and your style, but when we're all teaching the same thing and the kids are exposed to the same thing and using the same language, I think that's key. We all can't be doing our own thing, because when they do all come together in 6th grade, there's different language or different vocabulary being used. So I think that consistency is a key piece. I know, taking a look at where we were 22 years ago and things that I was teaching the beginning of 4th grade, I felt like
we were starting to get away from it a little bit. And what I was teaching my students this year in our first module through Wit and Wisdom, they were engaged. I had my lowest learners just as engaged as my highest ones. And they're really becoming thinkers and questioners. They're starting to question what they're reading, why an author wrote it a certain way. For example, right now our unit is all on wordplay. And so why do authors choose the words that they do? And what's the purpose? Is it for humor? Is it to try to get a certain point across? But how wordplay can really have an effect within your writing, and more so in the imaginative sense or the creative sense, and that's just kind of taken off their creative writing. They love to do creative writing as a choice. So anything that can inspire their learning and their wanting to write, for me, it's a win-win.
You know the manager of the baseball team? Yes. You know the guy's name? Why, sure. Well, you tell me the guy's name's on the baseball team. Okay, who's on first? What's on second? I don't know who's on third. You ain't saying nothing to me yet. Go ahead and tell me.
Does that now make sense to you? Sure, there are times when this is what you need to learn, and we're gonna, do it, and you're gonna learn, and we're gonna talk about it. It might be hard, and ask any student in my class, and they'll say my favorite word is perseverance. I don't know how to do it yet, but we're gonna work through it. And then how good you feel about yourself when you have persevered and you achieved what you didn't think was possible. And I think that's where the budget in general is really important, because we have our music budget where I have wonderful musicians in here. That's where they shine, is playing band or playing orchestra or singing in the chorus. And then I have math brains in here, which they could come up and they could teach the class. Amazing. But they all shine in their own way, and I really feel like that I am able to help those, no matter where they are or whatever their strengths are. And it is because of that consistency, that equity, that everyone is getting the same thing. But when I see someone struggling, I'm able to help them with it.
That is correct. And finally, in 1812, Britain invaded and occupied Batavia and the rest of Java under Stamford Raffles. 7 years before Raffles founded this nearby country off the tip of the Malay Peninsula.
Singapore, right?
Well, Masterminds specifically is geared toward knowledge and academic excellence. So the club attracts students that have an interest in studying, facts and knowledge and trivia, some things they learn in school, some things they might learn outside of school.
The bonus question for your team.
It also provides them with a place to be with kids that are like-minded and gives them a place to do it competitively. So when we practice, we are, breaking up into teams and competing, and then of course we do compete against other schools in the area and have playoffs and a championship, just like you might for sports, but it's academically geared. So it gives the students an opportunity to just sort of get together with students that also like to learn and do all sorts of trivia-related things.
Container bin, like with shaving cream, and then bring it inside.
Extracurricular activities allow students to get involved after school in interest areas that they may not have access to during the day. So, for example, science club, we don't get to do these labs in our science classes, but it gives them a chance to experience the scientific method in a fun way after school, where they get to hang out with friends and be social. So it's a great opportunity for students. We certainly are impacted by the instructional budget, and we get opportunities through it. The access to materials that we have, the ability to have, for example, we just piloted the FOSS kit. It was a new area for us, a new interest area, subject that we're teaching in science, and it allowed us to explore different labs and have different experiences with students. Extracurriculars is where we hook our kids. We try to hook them in the classroom as well, all day long, and we
We enjoy the energy middle school kids have, but they really want to dig in. And so things like Science Club, where they can get hands-on and we can do different kinds of things outside of the curriculum, really helps students to stay engaged. They're more engaged in the classroom then. They make great connections. It's an awesome way for us to get to know our kids in a different way. And look at them. They're amazing.
Can I get Clooney?
So social emotional learning by no means is new to Fairport, and it's not new to schools. Teachers have been doing this for many, many, many years. However, we now have a consistent curriculum that's taught to all students. And this offers a lot of consistency in terms of expectations. And I think it is, as educators, it's our responsibility to acknowledge that our students are facing more intense stressors than they were 5-10 years ago. So in our response, we have to acknowledge that. We have to keep in mind that there are complex stressors that we're working through to help them achieve their goals. With additional support personnel, with additional instructional supports, we can provide students that and ultimately grow with them to be the best they can be.
Give a kid a math equation and let's see if they can solve it. And then if they solve it...
There's no happier place to work than a primary school building. Students come in every day smiling and happy and ready to tackle the day. We work really hard to meet students where they're at and to look at them for their strengths. If we were to ask most teachers, they have very similar goals for their students. They want them to have positive relationships, they want them to meet their goals and reach their full potential, and they want them to be a positive contributor to their community. However, in my role, I'm also interested on how students respond when they're not successful, when they're presented with challenges and stressors. Do they have the coping strategies and tools to work through these situations? We want to ensure that our students have the stamina and perseverance to work through the challenging situations that life throws at them. Whether it's academically, socially, emotionally, civically, we want to make sure they have the tools to tackle those things. When we've done that, we know that they're ready for the bigger world and they truly are future-ready readers.
So this slide or that video, first of all, thank you, Lindsay Reddig. I truly appreciate her passion to tell the story and to make sure that it's succinct, but it's only a small fraction, right? That was 8 minutes, but we could have gone on, and we hear about it every month when we come here. These are the great things that we are doing in our school district. At the end of the year, when there's accolades and there's celebrations, they're celebrating learning, they're celebrating growth, they're celebrating their passions and interests to be the best version of themselves, whether it's science, robotics, mathematics, humanities. We're fortunate to have up to 98 electives here at Fairport High School. That's powerful. A community expectation. A memory of a student. When you talk to our students, they will speak to these experiences as they leave our schools. If you take a look at our FHS electives, this is where we enrich our students. There's business, family and consumer science, tech classes, music, math electives, English electives, science electives, social studies electives, and world languages. We give our students a comprehensive experience, and that's what the instructional budget does. It helps tell our stories. It's our STEAM labs. Go into a STEAM lab and say, we're not going to give you this next year. And they get so mad, and it's so cool because they love it. And we say, just kidding. We love the STEAM lab. This is where our kids are engaging, problem solving. This is a K-5 program where they go in and explore and problem solve and work on complex problems, enrich all students. Proud to be a part of it. Thank you for making it a priority board, and that's what we're doing here tonight. So when we talk about what does it take to replicate our program and to continue to grow and be better and to meet the community's expectations, to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students, it's the instructional budget here. You'll see that there's an increase in their instructional administration budget line of 4.86%. I asked Mr. Stevens, how close was that last year? And it's pretty similar, right? There hasn't been a significant change in that line item, and that is with the MTSS administrator, the multi-tiered systems of support administrator in there. So to year, that's just a smidgen higher. You take a look at special education. These bumps are related to some of these increases. Bringing us a special ed teacher on special assignment who will work hand in hand with all teachers, promoting best practice, helping them work through the nuances of their day, being an advocate for special ed. When we talk about bringing kids back to Fairport at the middle school level, that is why you'll see a 5.3% increase, which, by the way, if they're in our district, that's less services they have to receive outside of our district. That's a cost savings in the long run. But more importantly, they get to be part of Fairport, and they get to experience the joy of our schools. They get to experience Brotherhood, Sisterhood Week. They get to experience all the celebrations of learning that occur, the arts, and so on, as we invest and engage with them in the community. You'll see that there is a summer school line item here of 37.17%. That jumps out at you, right? That's a significant increase. However, that's shifting money. That's grant management. There's certain ways that we have to use our grants, and that's us just responding to that requirement in that budget line. We're proud of our summer school programming. Our kids expect it. Our families expect it. We are using dollars differently, and Mr. Stevens will be talking about those pieces in a little bit. School, library, and AV and computer-assisted instruction. That's up 8.12%. You ask why? Well, that's because we use a lot of software, and software licenses costs have increased. We're using more software. We are a one-to-one school district as well. A lot of student programs are on computers, and sort of a cost of doing business. Pupil services, 9.65%. That's due to the ads, right? I've talked about the counselors, I talked about the behavior specialists, I talked about the psychologists, right? And you'll see a 9.65% increase right there. There's also, within that line, athletics. We need to make sure that our students have the right equipment, and you'll see some dollars set aside for some athletic purchases that our programs need. So we go to our general support. This was last month. And we talk about the cost of doing business, the backbone of what occurs in our district to make things happen. This is about making sure that we're able to support 12 sites, 8 academic buildings, 1.2 million square feet of building area, over 300 acres of campus. That equates to about 120 residential lawns, as Aaron Smith said last month. But it's also talking about wage adjustments too, because this is where minimum wages, as many people know, that's increased, and we're happy this board has been advocates for those who need a higher wage, and we have to be responsive to that, and we do that. We're recruiting bus drivers, paraprofessionals, lunch monitors. These people are essential to our schools. And in this line, you'll also see, and I'll go through the line right now, our Board of Education. Our Board of Education does not get paid. They volunteer their time. However, they have meetings. They have professional development sessions. This is an engaged board. The board clerk is also in this line item. So, as well as community votes, referendums, right? So that's why you see an increase there. And again, the smaller amounts, the changes reflect a higher percentage change just because of the amount. And then you'll see again, personnel, public information. You'll see an uptick in our ability and to advertise and our need to advertise. Mr. Loff and Lindsay Reddig have done a great job of bringing in and recruiting and advertising. That costs dollars, and that's why you see an increase in that line item. You go to special items in BOCES administration, right? We're down 41%. Well, that's because our debt to a BOCES payment that we continually have made for the past 3 years has fallen off, right? So that helped balance this to the negative, right? So you see in general support a total of minus 3.64% in the general support. And we went over the general support in depth last month, and there was a great video there too. Thanks, Lindsay. Transportation. We are a real live organization. People depend on us. We need to make sure that our salaries are competitive. We need to make sure that we're able to manage and support fuel and oil supplies costs, the maintenance of our vehicles. Those prices have also risen. We have tutoring transportation for those students who can't get to school for a myriad of reasons. We have hundreds of students who are obligated to transport to private schools. Homeless transportation. Sometimes we have to go all the way across the city to pick up students by law, and we're happy to do that. That's homeless law. We'll needing to trade in 9 buses, and we're going to be purchasing 9 buses. We're on a cycle, and every year we rotate the number of buses that we'll be trading in and the number of buses we're purchasing to make sure that we have the safest, most effective, and most efficient, cost-effective buses to transport our most precious entity, and that is our students. Again, contract busing, sometimes there's a shortage of bus drivers still. Even though we've been aggressively making a dent in it, we're still looking for about 10 to 15 more bus drivers, probably more, right, Mr. Loff? Right? And so those services cost money. And you'll see a 9% increase in that budget line for transportation. The definite cost of doing business. Community service. This is our pool at Minerva Deland. We have a lifeguard. Our pool is always being used. We're responsible gladly to support and offset costs associated with this important service that the community expects and uses. Employee benefits. The employee benefits are a percentage of ERS and TRS are a percentage of the total number of salaries. And you'll see the ERS, again, set by New York State, not by us. It's 23.69% increase. And again, that's a percentage of our salaries. That rate went up from 11.6 to 13.1%. And so we have to pay this cost. It's a mandate from the state as we pay into the pension. And again, through the years, these numbers fluctuate. Our TRS, now our ERS is all of our teachers and our administrative staff. That's our ERS. Did I get that right? Yeah, ERS. TRS is our paras, our transportation directors, our buildings and grounds, our non-collective workers, about 500 of those TRS individuals here in our district, and that rate is down from 10.29% to 9.76%. Teachers, I totally mixed that one up. That's the TRS. My fault. That's completely my fault. The TRS is a teacher retirement system. I mixed that up. That's for our teachers. The ERS is for the non-certified employees. I apologize. The teacher retirement system is down 2.2%, or 10.29 to 9.6%, and as a percentage of salaries, that equates to a minus 2.2% decrease. And you'll see decreases in workers' compensation, which is a good thing, right? Because we're not paying those benefits as great as we've had in the past. Unemployment insurance as well is down 33% and that's a good thing as well. So, the budget reflects that. In this budget line, total benefits are 3.23%. Debt service. You will see in this budget line, transfer to special aid fund, the transfer to special aid fund. That is our UPK commitment, right? We're increasing our sections, 2 sections. We're excited to bring in more students who are pre-kindergarten. I think it's going to be great as the board is committed to growing this program. The MTSS director will be the one leading and overseeing our UPK program as we develop it. We'll be looking to bring 2 of these programs on site, one at Brooks Hill and one at Northside School, right? And as we move through the years, we'll continue to talk about how do we continue to grow our UPK, but you'll see that reflected in this line item right here. You'll also see that a principal and interest on bond anticipated notes has come due, and that is reflected in the band of 623% change, but that's the 2019 capital project that we are looking forward to beginning payment on that project. So there'll be a revenue on the other side of that Mr. Stevens will be talking about in the very near future. Total expenditures, when you add all those together, including the instruction, will be a 5.6% increase. Now, Mr. Stevens is going to talk about our best approach in managing it and supporting and paying for these.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Provenzano, and good evening. So the next piece we'll talk about are the revenues and what makes up the revenue side of the budget. Here you can see a brief summary in terms of the different pieces. The 2 largest pieces that we see for the district in our revenue stream would be related to our property tax and our state aid. So quick review, I won't go through this fully, but we have this reminder every year, the tax levy limit in terms of the legislation that exists back in 2011 established. This is the commonly known as the tax cap. Here's a bit of a history related to our budget, tax rate, and tax levy overall in our change. You can see for the most part, the levy percent change, all of which through the years has been at the limit, so only requiring that greater than 50% passing rate on the budget vote. That number typically has exceeded the tax rate percent change. Why? Because after the assessments are finalized by the town, typically they have come in higher than, the tax base has come in higher than the projection that was made based on the prior year tax base. So that will have an inverse relationship on the tax rate itself and drop the tax rate growth down in percentage points as a whole. So back in 2018-19, this will be the last year it'll be on this slide as we move forward in the future, but that's when there was a large reassessment in the town of Barrington. Remember back then there were some concerns regarding the taxes overall going up because assessments were going up. The school district isn't going to collect any more than the tax levy limit in which is set and established and approved. It simply is dispersed differently across the tax base as a whole. So you can see there the rate itself dropped over 4% when those tax assessments did increase and the tax base went up as a whole. Here's an outline of the formula of the tax levy limit. We do have exclusions that are allowed. So we start with the prior year tax levy. So that'd be the 22-23 tax levy, and then run through the different pieces. A tax base growth factor, that's the growth of tax base within the town. And then if you look a little bit about halfway down, the allowable levy growth factor, that's that 2% cap. There's actually a much higher growth. For the past 2 years, the growth of the CPI has been greater than 2%, a little over 4% the prior year, approximately 7-8% in 2022. So that's where we've seen the cap on our tax levy limit as a whole. That 2% is where that growth is capped. Then we have pilots that play in prior year, current year as it flows through the formula and exclusions, as well as the capital exclusions as a whole. So here you see If you take a look kind of towards the top, the prior year capital exclusions, about 1.2 million. The current year coming up, 2.2 million. That's because of the 2019 capital improvement project debt. If we remember way back during the presentations, projected to be approximately $1 million impact on the tax levy when that's coming on. Will be offset we'll have some building aid coming in to support the debt itself, but the net local share, about $1 million increase. Also coupled in there is our bus purchases. We are seeing rising prices of buses, parts, overall, and going into manufacturing the buses, the costs are going up as a whole there too. So that's another piece that plays into the formula. So overall, the allowable growth would be at 3.68% for the 2023-24 budget. Next, kind of talking about the state aid the district receives. So here you see four main categories of state aid. Foundation aid being the largest piece of most flexible operating aid school districts receive. And there's a large increase here of 4.1 million. That's due to the 3-year phase-in proposed by the governor for phase-in of foundation aid and making school districts fully funded according to the formula. So here you see a nice large growth for us here in foundation aid of over 15%. Transportation, BOCES, building aid, these are expense-based aids. So simply based on expenses in the prior year, so 2022-23 expenses that will drive aid in 2023-24. So these are projected based off of current expenses, estimates that go in with the state and our state aid filings that generate the aid for the following year. So just approximately a small growth there in the overall aid for those pieces. Next, excess cost aids. Those would be aids on both private excess cost and public excess cost. That's related to programs we have in district, students at BOCES and special needs placements, private placements, all drive aid based on expense-based formulas and local share expectations for school districts. And then the last is our aidable materials, urban suburban tuition aid. A lot of this goes into related to textbooks, software, hardware, and library materials. You see the small decrease here because of enrollment. So enrollment is a factor of the formula, both at the foundation aid formula, the aidable material formula. So that's why you see the decrease here. And we've seen that consistently over the past few years. As our enrollment starts to stabilize, then we'd expect those aids to start staying a little bit more flat. Overall, an increase in the state federal aid of over 4.1 million, primarily related to foundation aid. Again, that's our largest driver, really helps support the expense side of the budget as a whole. Here's this just graph for foundation aid. If you look back in previous years, we saw pretty small increases as a whole. That's when there was no recognition of the formula and phasing it in. And then over the past 3 years is when we saw that phase in of the foundation aid for schools. So our total revenue, adding in the state aid, midway down, you see our property tax, $3 million increase, state aid of $4.1 million. Those are the two largest pieces that make up our growth in revenue. And then sales tax and other revenue, slight increase there. We're seeing sales tax receipts coming in. Monroe County shares sales tax with school districts in our county, and we've seen those receipts come in a little higher than anticipated. So we see a small growth here in the sales tax receipts. Overall, was $7.5 million growth in revenue for the district, or $144.9 million. So the next piece that we look at is we saw on the expense side over $150 million, $144 million in the revenue. So how do we support that gap as a whole for the school in the 23-24 budget? And that's where we have our long-range planning, and we look at our fund balance and reserve allocation as a whole. So here, the first line is our assigned appropriated fund balance. What we do is we look at year-end expenses. We project expenses, revenues through the 2022-23 school year, and we see what actual revenues less actual expenses will provide. And we are allocating a portion of that surplus to keep the tax increase where it is for 2023-24. So we're giving back any surplus from the current year to the following year budget. Next, we have our debt service fund. Here you see a growth in the debt service fund transfer. This is money related to premiums received on the short-term borrowing of the band. That money was received back in July. We put that into our debt service fund, hold it for the year until the interest comes due. It's meant to pay off the interest. So that's a little over $450,000. And then coupled with a transfer from our debt service fund to combine those two to be at the $745,000 number. So about $250,000 coming from our debt service fund. That's money that has been placed aside and is required to be used to pay local share of debt over the years. So this is in our fund. It'll bring our debt service fund down to approximately $1.9 million at the end of 24. Again, with our long-range planning, this is a piece that we've done to help reduce the overall tax levy limit, because this is as we do this, it reduces the local share of debt in that calculation. So that's a key piece in managing that as well. The next three reserves we see here for assignment are reserves, operating reserves that we can assign to pay for operating expenses in our budget. So tax refunds, our tax cert reserve can be used for that. Unemployment reserve, we can use those funds to pay for any unemployment costs. And then the retirement contribution reserve for both the employer retirement system and teacher retirement system, those can be utilized to offset some of the expenses related to our pension costs as a whole in the budget. So here you see about a growth mostly related to the debt service fund transfer, not a long-term plan as a whole there. So you see 7.1 million compared to 6.5 million in 2022-23. As a percent, if you look at the bottom line, as a percent of the overall budget, due to the budget increase as a whole, we see that percent of budget still at under where it was in prior years, so about 4.2% of the total budget. So trying to continue to stay in that lane so that we can plan long-term, be able to support the assigned fund balance, and utilize reserves as we look into the future budgets. So here's how it comes together. The overall expense budget, 152 million, less our revenues, 144.9 million, and then we add in our transfer from debt service fund, our utilization of reserves and fund balance to come to that total revenue package that supports the expense side of the budget. And proud to say at this point in the game, right now we're not projecting a revenue shortage where we are in the budget development draft. Many times, if you remember in previous years, when the state governor's proposal has come out, we have seen estimated revenue shortage in that line. Because of this phase in of foundation aid and this proposal being as aggressive as it is with our $4 million increase, we're able to be at a state at this point in time to be at a balanced budget as we move forward through the first draft. Here's just a pie graph of the revenues. Like I said, state aid and property tax making up the two biggest pieces of revenue. And the next piece, kind of talk about our long-range planning, work with Audit and Finance Committee on these pieces. We recently had the 2023 reserve plan adopted a couple of months ago and updated in our reserve funds. So we'll notice as we go through here, we have different reserve funds available for specific purposes as a whole. Comptroller has stated that it's important for districts to save, to plan for long-term unexpected events from insurance to liability to the pension system, workers' comp, capital reserves, and so on. Here's a look at our capital reserves. We have three categories of capital reserves. We have building reserves, we have our technology reserve, and we have our bus reserve. So here you see for our capital project reserve, we have three different reserves because they are set with limits. And once they reach the funding limit or time limit, we must have them recreated. So the voters approved the creation of a 2022 capital building reserve back at the May vote, of which you see up here on the slide. So 1.4 million, 15 million, and 3.1 million in these three reserves. If we remember, when we had the vote back in December, we had 19.2 million of those reserves assigned within that. As we look forward to future planning, there's still plans to utilize the capital building reserves for future projects as well. And then our tech reserve, we see a balance at the end of 22 of 1.7 million. However, at the vote, we had approved, voters approved use of 1.35 million of that reserve to be spent through BOCES, appropriated in that sense. That will generate BOCES aid. That will drop the reserve below our $1 million threshold as a whole established in our reserve plan. And the plan is as that expense drives BOCES aid that we'd look to fund that into the newly created capital technology reserve that was voted and approved by voters back in May of 22 as well. Next few reserves, we have repair reserve. So this can be utilized to cover any large repairs. If we do not have a capital project that's in place, then this is very important. This helps us utilize those funds. Or if a capital project has expensed all of the funds that are within that capital project, this reserve is extremely important. Subject to a public hearing in order to access the funds. Our employee benefit accrued liability reserve. This can be used to pay for compensated absences. So when somebody retires or resigns from the district, we have requirements that we have to pay per contract. So we can utilize reserve to pay for those expenses. And then the next three are tax certiorari reserve, liability reserve, and insurance reserve. These can be utilized to pay for expenses related to tax refunds, any claims or legal expenses not covered through insurance. Liability and insurance reserve can help pay for those as well. And then we have our other reserves board authorized by resolution, and these are key as it relates to operating expenses. So all four of these you see within our budget for costs that we have annually in the general fund. And we have our employer retirement system reserve, teacher retirement system, unemployment insurance, and workers' compensation reserve. So all of these four pieces can be utilized to pay for expenses related to the respective category. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Provenzano to close out with timeline.
Closing out, definitely, I like this visual representation because it speaks to a process. The board spends lots of time, analyzing budget, talking about positions, making sure that we're meeting the community's needs. The formal process started on February 1st. We're here today talking about the instructional budget and the first draft of the 2023-24 budget. It still feels weird saying that, but we're preparing for next year and proud to do so. The next important meeting will be on April 18th. The board will make a recommendation. We'll be adopting a budget. Looking forward to that conversation and comments that ensue. This will also be a workshop topic in the near future as well. On May 2nd, there'll be a public hearing on the budget where we'll be interacting and inviting community members in as well to hear the components of the 2023-24 budget. And on May 16th, there's a budget vote and Board of Education election where 3 Board of Education seats will be open. Again, here's another way to look at this with those important dates on April 18th, May 2nd for the public hearing, May 16th for the vote at Johanna Perrin Middle School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're looking forward to getting community members out so their voices could be heard. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Stevens and your team.
Indeed, thank you. A lot of work going into this, as you mentioned. It really starts back in September, October, so it'll barely end, and it will start all over again.
It starts the day after last year's vote.
It really does. Yeah, already thinking down the road. Thank you for that, and we will have more to come. So moving on the agenda, we have discussion action items, area 7, section 7 of the agenda. UPK RFPs that you mentioned, the $170,000 increase in that line item for universal pre-K. Motion to approve the proposals that were submitted when we issued an RFP. All right, Caitlin, thank you. Ryan, second. Questions, comments?
So what does this look like for our community then? So we have these 3 RFPs. What are we thinking spots-wise for the fall?
Mr. Stevens, what were the exact number of additions? It was 50. But
yeah, right now we have 3 classes of 18. So this will be an addition of 36 students, 2 additional classes.
And so we'll be communicating the process that goes along with that so we can get that done early. And that's why we wanted to get it sooner than later so we can then go to the community, communicate our exact process, and families could make their plans.
It's a net 2 increase, though, noted, right, that one's replacing the class we currently have. Is that correct?
It's in that 2, but it's 2 additional, so
Right,
which
2
is
additional.
which is I think a board expectation and a goal early on was that we wanted to
Continue to grow this.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you. I know we've heard from a lot of community members that this was an important piece, and just getting it out there and getting more spots available for kids in our community is awesome.
Indeed, thank you. Other comments, questions? All in favor? No opposed? 6-0. The 2023-24 school calendar, we always start getting emails early in the year, right, about this. We maybe need to think about doing this earlier. But a motion to approve the school calendar for next year. Marty, thank you. Mary Caitlin, second. Questions, comments about the calendar as it's proposed?
Just a quick comment. I think it's cool that April 8th, they're coming out of spring break. There'll be no school, and that is the day of the eclipse. That we're in the path of totality, which is just always fun to say. But giving students I think schools are off countywide.
Yeah, it was a Monroe County, not edict, but recommendation, that you try to keep the, community free and traffic free and safe.
I think it's great for students, and families to be able to experience something that's a true once in a lifetime thing that we're going to be having this area. So be able to experience it with families, and it's going to be very cool.
Yeah.
April 8th.
Get your glasses.
Get your glasses, but it should be so cool. Yes, thank you for considering that. I know I'm glad the county put that out there overall. All in favor? Aye, 6-0. We have a calendar for next year, as people ask. Okay, policy first reads. Motion to approve the first reading of the policies listed in the agenda. Joyce, thank you. Jan, second. Questions, comments about any of these policies? None? All in favor? 6-0, no opposed. And then second reads, ones we saw last month. Recommendation or motion to approve. Is that Jan? Jan, thank you. Marty, did I see your hand? Is it a second? Yep. Questions or comments about these? No, seeing, hearing none. All in favor? 6-0. 7E. Motion to approve the resolution for the annual meeting and budget vote. Jan, Mary Caitlin, second. All in, or comments, questions about that? All in favor? 6-0, approved, so the notice will be able to go out. Donations, acceptance of donations. Motion that we approve, I think more accept, right, the following grants and donations. Joyce, thank you. A second. Marty, questions, comments? Always the comment of thank you. The amount of donations we receive every year is impressive and wonderful, and we appreciate people's consideration for the district. All in favor? 6-0, no opposed. 7G, approval of the seeker. State environmental, I can never do the whole thing. Mr. Stevens, you want to jump in? Quality Review Act, thank you. Oh, it's all right there in the motion, sorry. Motion to adopt the seeker. Jan, thank you. Second, Brian, questions, comments about this?
I can just if you want me to just give a quick comment. Annual capital outlay project related to Dudley Elementary flooring. So just wanted to.
Right, this is $100,000. It was in the budget, a small line item, but yes.
But just to give more context, investing dollars at our elementary schools. Northside is getting a like floor, and it's just trying to build uniformity. That's going to be a sustainable floor, a floor that will last the next, 50, 60 years more. So definitely going to brighten up.
Yeah.
The school.
Thank you. All in favor? No opposed, 6-0. And then one of our favorites, a motion to approve the field trips that are listed there. Brian, thank you.
Second.
Okay, Joyce, second. Questions, comments about these? None. All in favor? 6-0. Great. We will have a motion to enter into executive session. When we reconvene into open session, there are not any plans to make a decision, so we will almost immediately adjourn and be done for the night. We appreciate those who attended and sat through the entire meeting, and those who listened. Thank you so much. Motion to enter into executive session for reasons outlined in the agenda. Mary Kaylin, second. Brian, all in favor? Aye. 6-0. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.